right. Hello, hello, my beauties and bees. Oops, I mean, to still have the Knight of Tartaria up there. Ah, hello, hello. Welcome. Welcome to our week in weirdness. Um, there's a lot of topics that we'll cover on this section of the show. I like to talk about psychic powers. I like to talk about alternative history here, conspiracy theories, extra dimensional travel, time travel, occult powers, occult groups, anything that pertains to the supernatural and paranormal or tries to link things with something unnatural, paranormal, is what we want to break down here. And one thing that often overlaps with a lot of these paranormal and supernatural claims is crime. Perhaps the most infamous type of criminal associated with the supernatural are murderers, specifically serial killers who participate in occult or ritual killings, things like that. And on the other end of the spectrum, overlapping with the serial killer phenomenon, are psychic mediums who use their gifts to help law enforcement track down and catch serial killers with their psychic brain powers. Yeah. So, without further ado on that, I threw together a playlist of just some random stuff about psychic detectives and supernatural serial killers and their battle royale on the supernatural plane. And we're going to crack that open here in... Where'd it go? There it is. We're going to crack that open here in our weekly weird subject matter. So I really do. I hope you enjoy this little segment. If I can find it. There we go. All right. So, actually, I don't want to start with that one. I'm going to start with this one.
Well, we're sticking with that spooky theme this month for Positively Upstate. Do you believe that some people can, say, communicate with the dead or predict the future?
No, I don't believe either of those things.
Tonight, CBS 6's Julia Dunn introduces us to a well-known psychic medium here in the capital region. She says she helped solve some very well-known police cases.
Ever since she was a young girl, Ann Fisher says she could communicate with the dead.
I was 9 years old. My grandmother had died. I used to walk up to the cemetery. I lived in a small town, and I'd go there and talk to her, not realizing I was communicating with her.
Fast forward, the now professional psychic medium is known.
Honey, I go to the... Well, I didn't this year because I'm thousands of miles away, but I go to talk to my dad, too, at the cemetery. I talk to him. I stand there and say things to him and tell him about my life and some of the things that have developed since his passing in 2011. I don't pretend that he can hear me and stuff. It's cathartic for me to be able to go and say, "Hey, Dad, I miss you. This happened. I'm stressed out right now about this. I'm so happy about that." Yeah, just it's a venting opportunity, but I don't pretend I'm like talking to his spirit. I don't think that my dad would be thrilled with my transition or anything like that. With the current state of my life, I think my dad would be disappointed and upset. So I hope he's not listening.
Known throughout the world. She's published a book, been on radio, TV, doing readings, seances, and at times helping police with detective work. Her biggest case, finding Capital Region serial killer Lemuel Smith.
When I want to find people, I use a map and a pendulum and a photograph, and then try to see what comes to me. And sometimes I can get dates and times.
Not only did Fisher give an accurate description of Smith and where he was living, she also led the police to a trash can containing DNA evidence. Smith later got 2 life sentences. Years later, she helped find a missing man in Waterford, directing police to where his car went into the Mohawk River. For the skeptic, Fisher says the results speak for themselves.
Oh, I've done it so much, and I've had people say it's right. You know, if they said, "Oh, Ann, you're not right," it probably would deter him.
Fisher says by using a photo, she can channel spirits, helping people connect with loved ones who have passed on, or spirits or ghosts that for some reason haven't.
Some people die and they don't realize they're dead, and they're caught in that in-between zone. They're trapped.
There's like all the results that come up for like empirical data. Like here, okay, so I guess this is gonna matter and come into play. So I'll bring this up. This is from the OJP. It's about psychics and police work. Let me drop this in the side chat. Because they want to pretend their results are a lot better than they are. Yeah, it's got Dorothy Allison Nutley. Psychics, including clairvoyants, prophesizers, telepaths, palmists, numerologists, graphologists, and metaphysicians. Both psychics and detectives base their work on intuition to some extent. Dorothy Allison of Nutley, New Jersey, has assisted police with more than 4,000 investigations and has received many letters from law enforcement agencies describing how she helped them. To produce information in a criminal investigation, most psychics like to have an article or photograph of the victim or visit the victim's home or the crime scene. Allison asks only for the person's date and place of birth and the date and location last seen. Professional Psychics United, the PPU, a network of more than 380 psychics, has volunteer psychic rescue teams. The PPU psychics usually become involved only after the police contact them. Paul Kurtz, head of the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, dismisses psychics outright, saying that much of their detection is actually wild guessing, cold reading, and stuff like that. So they may be very good detectives. The psychic investigators, they made there's a certain set of personality characteristics that you. Are you going to bring up Sylvia Brown? Yeah. Oh, Sylvia. Yeah, they're all talking about Sylvia Brown out in the side chat. Yeah, she did this too. In 1993, article in the organization's journal revealed that 31 of 50 large police agencies surveyed have never used psychics. The FBI also does not hire psychics and does not plan to use them, although it notes that they, like other citizens, can offer information for assessment by law enforcement officials. Psychics and their critics differ sharply in their views about their usefulness, but they will probably continue to be involved in criminal investigations, photographs, and illustrations. Yeah, so... no, they like to claim that they're participating in the stuff. A lot of these people are just what they're actually their part that they play is like calling the police station or making a police report saying, "Hey, I think that there's a body here" or something like that. I think that I have reason to believe that there's a killer living here, things like that.
If you try to get rid of one of those and have them go on, they're easy. But when you get one that doesn't want to leave, that's when it's bad.
Past life regression is another type of hypnotherapy Fisher offers to clients. When I asked her...
Past life regression is almost solely responsible for the satanic panic, right? Wait a second. Dr. Phil plus ice plus a racist psychic sounds like a dangerous mix. What the hell are we talking about? No, that sounds terrible. Is that a show? Are they using psychics to find illegal immigrants? That sounds horrifying. There's a demographic of Americans who love that, though, who would love to just watch immigrants be rounded up like freaking inhuman creatures. They're, migrant workers and undocumented immigrants. They just think of them like people rounding up criminal aliens. It's disgusting.
About her past lives, she showed me this picture of socialite Louise Vanderbilt. Fisher admits the whole psychic medium thing may seem spooky to some.
I'm not scary. I mean, I'm a normal girl. I should have been a psychologist, and maybe I wouldn't have had, but I wouldn't have had all the fun that I have as a psychic. I love it.
In Albany, Julia Dunn, CBS 6 News.
Many claim that psychics can help.
So, I think that I could pull off a psychic grift. I think that I have the understanding of how it works good enough to do that. I've worked with enough psychics doing my paranormal investigation. It's all about vibes, but I like my vibes as a cryptozoologist better than a psychic. I don't know if I'm gonna wear this actually. I'm thinking about switching my shirt up to something that matches the gothic cowgirl vibe better than this, but it is Pride, though. I don't know. I think maybe I'll keep it. Maybe I'll have you all help me pick an outfit. I don't know.
Help police find serial killers. But is it true? The intersection between the esoteric world of psychics and the pragmatic realm of law enforcement might seem unlikely. Yet, there have been numerous instances where purported psychics have claimed to assist in the investigation of serious crimes, including the hunting of serial killers. The use of psychics in law enforcement investigations remains a controversial topic, with some attributing significant breakthroughs to their insights, while others dismiss it as mere coincidences or clever trickery. This video...
Intuition, yeah. Well, I mean, the psychics that I knew and interacted with were really theatrical. So it was really convincing people that they weren't quite the same as everybody else, that they didn't move through the world the same. So you got to get off this vibe that you're that you're there but you're not there, or that you're there but you're also someplace else, right? That you're also interacting with a world that they can't see, like touching things that aren't there. People like that. Like there's like if you're touching a person, right? It gives off those weird, spooky vibes. And then while you're doing that, then you can be asking cold reading questions. It's all part of the show.
We'll explore the role of psychics in helping law enforcement investigate serial killers, the evidence of their effectiveness, skepticism towards these practices, and the alternative approach of psychological profiling. Since the late 20th century, there have been reports of psychics offering their services to law enforcement agencies. Psychics are individuals who profess to have extrasensory perception, ESP, allowing them to access information
But do they, though?
beyond the reach of the conventional senses. Methods used by psychics can vary greatly, including clairvoyance, seeing visions, clairaudience, hearing voices or sounds, precognition, foreseeing events, and psychometry, gaining insights from objects. Police have been known to utilize psychic...
Yeah, psychometry is like when you hold someone's t-shirt or whatever, and you can see what happened to them, like if someone murdered them, or if they were still alive in a holding container in Japan or something like that. It's one of the many claimed psychic powers that these people will have. They'll also, like she said, they'll do a pendulum over a map. They'll do Google Earth. Now we're actually going to watch one that does that here in a minute,
in hopes they can provide clues or details about crimes that may otherwise remain mysteries. Serial killers pose a unique challenge to law enforcement agencies. They are individuals who commit a series of murders over a period of time, often with no apparent motive and a random selection of victims. The unpredictable and clandestine...
That is not what the definition of a serial killer is. There's usually a lot of predictability to who the next victim will be for a serial killer. They usually have a profile of who this person is attacking and what maybe motivates them, what type of psychology they have. There's actually, there's a whole career field of profiling serial killers.
The nature of their crimes can make them incredibly difficult to apprehend. It is in these challenging cases that some detectives have turned to psychics for assistance, hoping that their purported psychic abilities can provide the breakthrough needed to solve the case. Serial killers are murderers who kill 3 or more people in a series of separate events over a period of time. Serial killers often have signature ways of operating that are repeated across their crimes.
He
Some of
just
the
said
traits
they
that
were
define
unpredictable,
serial
and now
killers
he's
include
like...
psychopathy, sadism.
He just said they were unpredictable, and now he's like, but they have these defining traits. What? Make up your mind, pal.
And antisocial tendencies. Notorious serial killers like Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, and Jeffrey Dahmer murdered multiple victims in heinous ways. The complex psychological profiles of serial killers make them difficult to apprehend. As a result, law enforcement agencies are sometimes open to unconventional investigation techniques. Some of the most high...
But should they be, is the question. And the answer is no, because the success rate of psychics is abysmal.
Profile serial killer cases where psychics have been consulted include the Green River Killer, BTK Killer, Trailside Killer, and Zodiac Killer. In these...
How could you say they were successful with the Zodiac Killer when the Zodiac Killer is never discovered or never found? What are you talking about? Holy... But those rest of those were found by conventional police work. The BTK Killer, specifically, bro went out of work for a long time, retired from being a serial killer, and then he asked a cop if they could trace something if it was sent from a specific computer, because I guess he was getting bored in his older age. If they could trace something back to the source, and the cops told him no. They tricked him, and he sent it, and they tracked him down and found out who he was. That's what happened to BTK. So it wasn't a psychic detective. It was a boomer not knowing how technology worked. So the irony there. So then that's how he was caught. There was no... I mean, maybe there was a psychic that said... What's his name? Rick... let me see. BTK. In the spine torture kill. Dennis Rader, yeah. Because Dennis Rader being boomer brained was the reason that they caught him. So he didn't realize how good technology was. Not a psychic.
These cases, psychics claim to have visions about the killer's identities, locations, motives, and the whereabouts of victims' bodies. While most law enforcement agencies have...
What about the Green River Killer? How was the Green River Killer brought in? I can't remember. Did they ever... Alright, Scary Ridgeway. Let me see if the psychic claim pans out. Capture. Arrest for mortar. On November 30th, 2001, he was at a Kenworth truck factory where he worked as a spray painter when police arrived to arrest him. Yeah, because he left, it was hair and saliva samples at the scene. That's not psychics busting that case.
Officially deny relying on psychics. Some detectives believe psychics have contributed useful information not available through traditional police work. However, the extent...
Saliva in hair? A digital footprint? Or what Tsunami said about the Zodiac Killer? Decades of decoding his messages?
To which their tips are acted upon varies greatly between departments and individual investigators. There are several high-profile cases where psychic visions supposedly helped crack the cases, such as psychic Annette Martin, purportedly intuiting the location of the body of one of the victims of the Trailside Killer in California in 1979. Police corroborated the details Martin provided with facts about the case. However, the accuracy of her prediction was questioned by skeptics who claimed the information provided was too vague. The infamous Green River Killer case in the United States saw the involvement of psychic detective Noreen Renier.
All right, here we go. He's going to break it down.
Provided accurate descriptions of the killer and his victims. However, it's important to note that such instances, while fascinating, do not conclusively prove the effectiveness of psychic abilities. The lack of rigorous scientific testing and the inability to reproduce psychic phenomena under controlled conditions make it difficult to ascertain the validity of these claims. There are few scientific studies examining the success rate of psychic
As we
detective-
listen to this, please remember that the type of the caliber of detectives they're talking about here are people like David Paulides, you know, the missing 411 guy. They're basically grifters trying to profit off of the misery of lost family members by incorporating woo-woo into their investigations so they can write books about it after they retire from detective work.
detectives, making their purported assistance difficult to evaluate objectively. Much of the evidence in favor of psychic sleuthing remains anecdotal. Skepticism towards the use of psychics in criminal investigations is rife, and not without reason. Critics argue that
It's not necessarily anecdotal. Most of it is downright fraudulent. Some of it can be anecdotal. Some of it can be circumstantial. Do I believe that there are folks out there who actually truly and deep in their soul of souls or whatever believe that they have psychic powers? Yes, I believe that those people exist. Oh, thank you, Wild World. Thank you, Thomas. Thomas dropped a slew of videos a couple months back, and it's been kind of quiet lately. I hope you're working on something fun. And I look forward to seeing what you come up with. Hopefully some cryptozoological stuff, because I missed that. Who got a membership? So we got Karen Butcher. We got Jake, insert clever dapper inside joke here, Nelson. We got Yahooligan. We got Da Freak. Unapologetically Chrissy. And Native Atheist. Welcome to the Hive, peoples. It's good to see you. Yeah, those people do exist. Absolutely. The psychics who believe their own own grift or whatever. And I don't know, whether there's some psychological stuff going on there or not. There may or may not be, but I'm not here to accuse anybody of grifting necessarily without evidence, but a majority of the psychic community, of the telepathic community, of the cold readers and the mediums, especially the mediums, are grifters. They do a very specific practice called cold reading, where they ask a certain specific question. Sometimes they'll do stuff as silly as like, I'm getting initials, TB. Does TB sound, it looks like a man in his maybe past in his late 60s. Initials are TB. It's TB, it may be P. And does that sound familiar to anybody? Anybody out there? TB. It might be Thomas. It could be Timothy too. But the last name definitely starts with a B. Yeah, it's not a P, it's a B. TB. Thomas B. Timothy B. Anybody out there that sound familiar too? Which is silly on its face when you watch somebody do it live, because people will interact with it. People will engage it, and they will be and they'll be like, oh my gosh, my dad's name was Thomas Branson. How did you know? And they'll continue on and kind of like pick it apart. Oh yeah, was there some unresolved issue with you and your dad before he passed away? Something like that. They'll start picking at it like that, not understanding that no person in their right mind is going to, this person is, my nurse gave 5 TB tests Wednesday. Does that count, Maya? But they will not think of. I don't know if there's just no critical thinking there. If I died and came back as a ghost, I'm not going to go up to a medium when my family's sitting there in the audience and be like, my name starts with a B and my last name starts with an M. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be like, my name's Bree McCune. The money is in a Ziploc bag in the back of the toilet on the fourth floor of this building or whatever. Something like that. You know, I'm not going to give like vagaries. I'm not going to be like, my initials are BM. That's just silly. We appreciate the work you do too, Thomas. Thank you. Or someone will say, my grandma had tuberculosis. Oh, she's psychic. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's how this thing works.
That the testimonials of psychic success often involve confirmation bias, where investigators give more weight to the hits and ignore the misses. Additionally, the practice of cold reading, where individuals use high probability guesses and pick up on cues from their subjects.
I'm not one to shame because I'm all about feeding the bees, but I bet most normies would be like, hey, why doesn't this psychic cut her grass? I'm all about feeding the bees. I hate lawns. I think everybody should replace their lawns with wild flora. Only places where grass is the norm should be grass, right? Like if you live in the Great Plains, sure, have a lawn. Have a goat eat your lawn, or get a bison, get a pet bison. Everybody who has a yard in the Great Plains should get a bison and have it graze their grass instead of mowing.
Who appear psychic is often cited as an explanation for some psychics' seeming accuracy. Skeptics argue that any accurate information provided by psychics about serial killer investigations is a result of broad guesses, intentional deception, or coincidence. Controlled scientific tests designed to evaluate psychics' ability.
No, they can be a better detective than you. I mean, I'm not gonna stand for the cops here. Yes, private citizens can be better. I think I'm tooting my own horn. I'm a cryptozoologist, but I am a better detective than any freaking cop I've ever met, right? I'm better at tracking things down and finding things. Just because cops are not really, I don't want to say they're not invested. I don't know. Every cop has their own thing, but like finding locations and things like that on videos, they cannot say for sure. I will say for sure, like if I like when I did my video where I found where that Bigfoot sighting was, or Bigfoot, hairy hominid, whatever, in Brazil, you know, I was able to track that down, but a cop would not have been able to say affirmative, this is the location. They'd be able to, this seems to be the location or whatever. So there's also the limit of making affirmative claims that someone working in law enforcement has. Like they can't, until someone's been convicted, they can't say, yes, this is the person or whatever. Whereas a psychic or a private detective who's pretending to be a psychic, a private citizen who's doing their own detective work, can say, yes, this is the person. I know this is the person, right? I know this is the location. They can say that. So there's a little, that's why they can take credit for it, where the cops got to wait for. And again, I don't want to stand the cops because, again, these private citizens could be far superior detectives. And yes, this is AI video.
Such as randomized.
AI's videos make the worst. Detectives are slightly more competent, but not by much. Well, I mean, they've been through some training and stuff, but I don't know. I've often thought about going to school to be a private investigator. I think I'd be good at it.
Guessing tasks have failed to show psychic powers exist. Cognitive biases and improper police procedures may also lead to an overestimation of.
I think my grab bag of skills and knowledge would be complementary to doing PI work.
Psychics' accuracy. Critics claim psychics exploit high-profile cases for publicity, rather than a genuine desire to contribute valid information. The lack of proven psychic abilities causes many in law enforcement to dismiss psychic.
Tell me how you would feel about this. Your child was murdered. Your partner was murdered, right? And the police investigating that murder were like, this psychic investigator saw the person's face in their tea leaves, so we're putting out a sketch as we speak. How would you feel about that? That the killer of your family member, of your loved one, is being tracked down by what somebody saw on the bottom of a teacup.
Psychic consultations as pseudoscience. One potential explanation for the apparent success of some psychic predictions is that they may be effectively employing a form of psychological profiling, albeit unconsciously. Criminal profiling involves analyzing crime scene evidence, victimology, and other relevant details to construct a probable description of the offender. Skilled profilers can make startlingly accurate predictions about criminals, and it's conceivable that some psychics may be intuitively doing the same, interpreting the information they are given and making educated guesses based on their understanding of human behavior. Coincidental similarities between these criminal profiles and psychic visions may explain purported psychic successes. The profiling process...
They're profiling. They're profiling, they're private citizens doing profiling. Exactly.
This involves logic, deductive reasoning, and psychological theories, methods arguably more credible than clairvoyance. While some psychics maintain they have assisted law enforcement with serial killer cases, conclusive evidence supporting these claims remains elusive. Skepticism persists because controlled tests of psychic abilities have not yielded definitive proof.
Oh, check this out. So I have this cup that I got at Specs, I think, that is, it glows in the dark, but the black light over here, if I sit it right in front of it, this thing glows so violently. Look at that. Like, you could light up the room with this at this point.
As long as serial killer cases go unsolved, psychics will likely continue offering their assistance to desperate police departments hoping for a break in the case. Whether psychic detections ultimately do more harm than good remains an open question. The controversial nature of psychic sleuthing will ensure continued debate regarding their legitimacy and value. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to Connect Paranormal. This will allow us to make more videos.
I'm native atheist. I'm very much a creature of the night. Psychic Crystalline.
Hey everybody, it's Psychic Crystalline. I'm here with a video on a big serial killing case that's kind of taken over my life the last 12 years on my volunteer work with Find Me Group. And I'll get into the details of how a local case, Dwight Clark was a young college-age student who went missing from Bellingham, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. But the first thing I want to talk about is that I obsessively worked on this case for 2 years straight. Psychic insights that I got, I backed up with 2 years of research of circumstantial evidence. And so I compiled all of this with the help of Find Me Group, and Kelly Snyder, who's the director of Find Me Group, presented this.
Okay, so I guess before we get too far into this, we should look at Find Me Group. Find Me Group is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting law enforcement and families in locating missing loved ones, assisting in solving homicides, and identifying victims of human trafficking, which sounds decent, like a decent mission statement. We offer a comprehensive program that utilizes both traditional and non-traditional methods to locate missing loved ones, human trafficking, and resolve homicides. Our team comprises of retired and active law enforcement experts, individuals gifted with intuitive abilities, and skilled search, track, rescue, and recovery specialists. Find Me also provides experts in other disciplines such as handwriting analysis, body language experts, linguists, and forensic psychology. So I believe that this section right here is the psychics is the person we're looking at right now. Intuitive investigators, remote viewing, mediumship, forensic astrology, clairvoyance, clairsentience. I think that's how you say that, clairsentience, and clairaudience. So yeah, and then the rest of the stuff is like real, but yeah, wild that they're actually putting people who's have missing loved ones, unsolved homicides, and victims of human trafficking and they're putting it in the hands of remote viewers and mediums doing astrology. It's kind of sad, actually. Like, if you're doing this as a grift, how do you sleep at night? Anyway, back to the video.
For me, all of my work was presented to the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York about 10 years ago. And so this was 10 years ago, and I basically did all the work, handed it to the authorities on a silver platter. 12 years later, I opened my news app. I just saw there's 10 college-age young men in just the Chicago area in the last year that have shown up dead, no signs of foul play. It looks like a natural drowning, the same MO, which I'll get into. And so these murders have been coined the smiley face murders or the college drowning deaths, because a lot of times the last place where they went into the water, there's a smiley face painted in the area of where they entered the water. And so what I'm going to do is get into the
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel if I'm really thinking the smiley face killer is a serial killer. But there's a pattern of deaths that they're linking together on here, which is largely also associated back to David Paulides of the Missing 411.
details of how I got involved in this case, but I'm just so frustrated that these murders are still happening. So many families are being affected. These murders have been happening since the late 90s. There's hundreds of victims, and they started in the Midwest, Minnesota, Detroit area in the Midwest, and then it's slowly spread all over, like even to the West Coast where I'm living, which this local case got me sucked into this whole thing, and I ended up cracking it. But it's also spread outside of the U.S. And so what I'm going to do is talk about the local case and how I got involved in working on this smiley face murders and all the work I've done behind the scenes.
Yeah, basically that's what it comes down to, is this is a private organization doing all the investigation techniques that are unproven by science, right? That's their the direction. Like handwriting analysis is probably pretty solid, a pretty solid science, all things considered. Maybe not as solid as like fingerprints, but handwriting analysis can be utilized. I mean, that's why that's why we all have a signature. But criminal psychology is a little loosey-goosey too. But isn't a smiley face like the most common thing people draw or carve? Right. That's the problem with the smiley face murders. Exactly.
Oh, I'm kind of an earth angel behind the scenes, and I'm coming out of the closet, so you guys know now. Anyways, luckily Kelly presented my whole presentation to the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Southern District of New York. And also
she's the woman behind the curtain, don't you know?
Kelly has brought it to the attention of the FBI Behavioral Science Unit on 3 separate occasions. And so they're fully aware of everything and all of my work and the circumstantial evidence. And I don't know if, because it's so spread out jurisdictional.
You're right, Maya. Grifters give cancer patients essential oils. Nothing surprises me anymore.
They just don't have the money and the resources, or they would have to do surveillance on the suspects. But anyway, so there's this local case that I was asked to work on. Dwight Clark went missing, it was about 12 years ago, 10 to 12 years ago, from Bellingham, Washington. He was a student at Western Washington University. And so the big thing about these smiley face murders is all of these, they're mainly college-age young men, and they're all last seen stumbling and leaving a party or a bar. And a lot of times it's a bar, and they get kicked out for like being oblivious.
I think like most, depending on the day of the week, I think most college-age guys are last seen each night stumbling out of a bar. I mean, I think that's a pretty normal thing but let's draw a correlation.
Like kind of out of it. And so what I've been picking up psychically is that they're slipped GHB at a bar or at a party, and somebody tells them, hey, you want to go smoke some weed down by the water, meet me down there, and somehow they're lured to the water, and under the effects of GHB they're dunked in the water, and so there's no signs of struggle. It looks just like a natural drowning. Some of them have a little bit of air in their lungs where it wouldn't look like it was a drowning. Some it depends. Like there are so many cases, and I haven't read the autopsies.
Are you a forensics or what like forensics pathologist? Do you know what to look for on like a death report? I mean, when it comes to how these individuals died, are you qualified to say that this looked like drowning, but it wasn't? Like, what's your credentials to make that claim?
On all of them, but the majority of them are ruled accidental death. And the irony is a lot of them are happening in Minnesota, Detroit, Chicago, cold areas, and usually during the college season and in the winter when, you know, it's like January and 3 a.m, who's going to go down to the river and jump in icy? A lot of times it's icy water. Nobody's going to go swimming, even if you're drunk by yourself and then just like sink into the water.
They don't have to go swimming. They're stumble drunk, walking down by the water's edge. And they fall in and the water's cold, and you're talking about the upper Midwest in January, that water will kill you in probably 2 minutes if you can't get out. And if you're wearing your clothes and they're bogged down, if there's ice, a lot of other factors come into play there.
Water, like, no, that's not happening. So that's my theory, is that they're being slipped GHB, and there's a group of them. I can't get into the details because it's an open investigation, but I want to bring attention to the magnitude of these murders and how many are happening, and that just 10 in the last year in Chicago. Research it. Google smiley face murders, drowning deaths.
Especially young men, an Entropy fan. Young men will do all kinds of stupid shit. Look up those parkour videos where these kids are leaping across rooftops and stuff, or there's videos where guys jump into like a hole in the ice from the top of a freaking cliff. It's people do all kinds of crazy shit. Yeah, she is definitely a little full of herself. She's the secret weapon, apparently. I cracked the case, but no one will listen to me. Sounds like Roger from Mud Fossil University. I discovered giants, and Harvard won't return my phone calls. Google research alert. Yeah. I'm I'm a layperson, right? Like when it comes to criminal investigations, especially, but I wouldn't be like, the forensics on this said that this person died from drowning, but if you look here, they have a little air in their lungs. What's that about? Like, what the fuck?
Pretty documented. Dr. Phil actually did a special on it. I have a blog that I did on Dwight's case specifically that I'll link in the description. But so Dwight's case, I ended up being asked to work on it by the family and friends of the victim. They were having a search dog come in from Idaho, a bloodhound. And so I'm known for locating missing people.
Have you all ever been someplace that's got a lot of graffiti where there hasn't been a smiley face somewhere on the around the murder scene?
Using Google Earth as a medium, I come up with GPS coordinates. So I was like, okay, I'll go down with the ground searchers. First, I went to the Bellingham police and gave them a map and said, this is where Dwight's remains are. They didn't act interested. They were like, whatever. So I was like, okay, I'll just work with the searchers myself since they already reached out to me, but I thought I should include law enforcement if they wanted to be involved. And at that point, they don't know who I am. I'm just some rando walking in with a map. They're probably like, this chick's crazy. Anyway, I'm proving my accuracy over the years, so people better start.
I would be like, hey, this person might be the one who drowned this guy. If you said, hey, his body's here.
Paying attention when I tell them something. Anyway, so what happened was this dog from Idaho, I met them. It was called the GP property, and now like Bellingham's actually turned it and starting to convert it into a park. But at the point when Dwight went missing, it was a locked area. Well, there's fences where you know there's ways for Dwight to get in apparently, but we were let in by the security of GP, Georgia Pacific, and so I had that map, and I'm like, well, I think he's over there by the log jam, and so literally this bloodhound took off and ran to the waterfront and tried to jump in the water. It was crazy, and so. Like literally, they're like, he's alerting so strong, and he almost tried to jump in the water. Like the handler could not even hold on to him. He was running so fast, like to my GPS. And the irony, well, I guess it's not irony, but we didn't find him that night. But the next day, Dwight's remains popped up in that log jam area, 50 feet away from my GPS coordinates. So I basically, and he was in water, so I could have
evidence, like, and the fact that if you were accurate within 50 feet of a body of a murdered person in the location of the body, I'm suspicious of you now. She thinks she's Kate Blanchett's character from The Gift, I think. Which is a great movie. I love Kate Blanchett. Like Kate Blanchett's like one of my favorites, but especially in Thor Ragnarok. Yeah. But The Gift is a good movie too. Yeah.
Even had it exactly, and he floated a little bit because human remains sink, and then depending on the water temperatures, they'll float up. And so the next day after we were down there, his remains were found about 50 feet from my coordinate. And so that case, I meditated a lot, and it turned out being connected to the smiley face murders. I found a smiley face under a bridge where I think Dwight entered the water, and a lot of other graffiti that I documented, and started meditating and hearing things that I was like, whoa, what is this? And Google and research. And so ended up turning into 2 years.
Okay, hold on. I found a little report on the Dwight Clark case. Let me see. It's from ABC News. Let's have a look. It's 2010, so this is like not like new. October 7th, 2010, the body of Western Washington University and identified as missing student Dwight Clark had no signs of trauma. A preliminary autopsy report concluded today. Clark's body was found in a pond near the campus where he had attended college for only a few weeks. The 18-year-old old driver's license, student ID, credit card, cell phone, and cash were also discovered on the body. The report found that Clark's condition to be consistent with being in the water the entire time Dwight Clark was missing, and that his death occurred in the water. No external or internal injuries that would lead to death were found, according to the report. A toxicology report is expected in the next 2 months. Bellingham Mayor Dan Pike said that in a statement, "It is with deep sadness that we learn of today's discovery of the body of Bellingham on the Bellingham waterfront, likely that of Dwight Clark, a student whose disappearance in our community captured our hearts and left us hoping fervently he would be found alive and safe." The pond where the body was found has numerous docks and many boats that could make it difficult to find a body. Clark was a star student who sent thousands of text messages to his family and friends each month. His disappearance has puzzled authorities, who had spent more than a week scouring the Western Washington University campus searching for him. The 18-year-old had at last been seen in the early morning hours of September 26, when he left an off-campus party at Western Washington University to go back to his dorm less than a mile away. According to Bellingham authorities, Clark's case was classified as highly suspicious missing person case, according to Young, who admits he was baffled by the disappearance. Until today, preliminary autopsy shows there were no trauma wounds. Police would not rule out foul play in Clark's disappearance. Despite the extensive searching canine scents and numerous hundreds of volunteers, no evidence of any kind has been obtained to substantiate or indicate what happened to Clark, Young said earlier this week. Clark, there's a typo from NBC News. Typo says this whack. Clark was seen leaving the apartment of a friend's house at approximately 2 a.m. on September 26th. There are conflicting reports about whether Clark had been drinking at the party, said Young. But after 2 a.m., after that party, nothing. The college freshman who had started classes just a week before he disappeared was not known to take drugs. And if he had been drinking the night he went missing, friends said he was not inebriated to the point of not knowing where he was or what he was doing. Yeah, but she cracked the case.
Project where I could hardly sleep. I guess I get like hyper fixated, like obsess on something until I completely, it's my Scorpio moon and ADHD. Anyway, so I definitely got to the bottom of it and handed it all to Kelly with Find Me Group, and he presented it to the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York, and the FBI was there, and it was all in their hands. And so what we need to do as community, as parents, we need to have these cases reopened, especially these recent ones, the 10 cases in Chicago. Like I didn't really even have time to like research the names and the dates and stuff, but it's like, you guys could look it up yourself. It came up on my news app because News Nation Now was doing an article on it. And so I was like, what? This is still happening? And like, After my PowerPoint, which is interesting, the murders did slow down a bit, but it's escalating again. And just in that one area, like I had to take a break from it because it kind of took over my life and I was volunteering. And I'm like, this is dark, heavy stuff, you know? But now I'm just feeling this urgency for the family.
It's so weird that these people are doing their psychic work to find these like white guys when we have a literal epidemic, and I'm going to get on a soapbox here for a minute, a literal epidemic of Native American and First Nation women just disappearing into the ether, just vanishing from the face of the earth. Just every day we have a new case, and nobody's talking about it. Instead, we're dealing with white college boys getting drunk after parties and falling in the water. If psychics really existed and really had this ability, go to these frickin' nations and help these native people out. Go to Oklahoma. Go to Four Corners. Go to South Dakota, where these people are disappearing from, and help these girls. Find these girls. Find out what's happening to these girls. Jesus Christ. Okay. Off my soapbox.
To have justice and have these cases reopened, and for the FBI to have pressure on them to help these families. Like, basically, I did all the work for them, gave it to them on a silver platter, and I'm sitting here watching more people go missing. Like, I feel helpless. And so I called Kelly with Find Me Group, and I'm like, what can we do? We've already done the work. And he's like, the only thing we can do is bring it to the media's attention. So this is the purpose behind the video. Media's even reached out to Kelly, and they've been wanting to interview him because they know we've worked extensively on the case. The whole group has worked on it, but basically me, I'm the one that did the PowerPoint and all the research for it. But we have a group of intuitives and retired law enforcement, and you know, we all volunteer. And there's also Arizona Search and Rescue Dogs that work hand in hand with Find Me Group. But they didn't work on Dwight's case. That was just a local case. But the whole death, smiley face, group worked on it.
Oh goodness.
And so,
sorry to sneeze in your ear.
I really wanted to.
I went to hit the I went to hit the mute, but I wasn't fast. Wasn't fast enough. Ooh. Ooh. All right. Since I brought it up, I'm going to go ahead and pull this over here too, so y'all can see. Across the United States and Canada, Native women and girls are being taken or murdered at an unrelenting rate. Facts about missing and murdered Indigenous women. There is widespread anger and sadness in First Nation communities. Sisters, wives, mothers, and daughters are gone from their families without clear answers. There are families whose loved ones are missing, babies growing up without mothers, mothers without daughters, and grandmothers without granddaughters. For Native Americans, this adds one more layer of trauma upon existing wounds that cannot heal. Communities are pleading for justice. So there is a movement to try to investigate this. You can go to nativehope.org if you want to learn more about this problem that's happening. And since the mainstream media doesn't cover it much, but I'll get back to our fun stuff. Sorry to gloom.
Bring awareness, and please share this video. Google smiley face murders. Look up local drowning deaths. It's always
the smiley face murders are not a thing, and these Native American women murders are. So just to reiterate that,
men.
Or Native American disappearances. I shouldn't call them murders because they just disappear. They vanish. They vanish into the ether.
No trauma on the body in bodies of water, and it's usually in the fall, winter, and spring, and not during the summer. It's during the college days, college season, I guess, and it's usually around college.
You mean college kids at college campuses are at the college during the college season and not during the not college season? What a coincidence! This woman's definitely a psychic.
But not always. Like, it started where it was mostly college kids, but it's expanded where it's just young men in general that are targeted, and they're usually slip this GHB at a bar or party, and then they're just found in the water. And I mean, I'm not going to call the cops lazy. I mean, if there's no signs of trauma on the body, what can they do? But when there's a pattern of hundreds of victims, maybe not in your area, but Chicago, 10 in 1 year. Like, I'm sure they're working on it now behind the scenes, hopefully.
Do you know how big Chicago is? How many universities are within the metropolitan area of Chicago? how many bodies of water are within and around the metropolitan area of Chicago's, within the proximity of those universities. 10 drunk college students drowning after a night of partying. Sounds about right.
But can all of you guys please spread the word and bring awareness to these drowning deaths, because they're not going to stop. And we need to put pressure on the authorities to find justice, get these suspects behind bars, because I think there's a lot of copycat murders happening as well. There's this whole
Hello, Brentley. Good to see ya.
formula, and I wish I could say more about it. But there's tons of circumstantial evidence, and it's spread all over the U.S., but it mainly started in Detroit and the Minnesota area. And, you know, Iowa, I'm pretty sure, the La Crosse River, there's tons of victims there. And now all of
Thank you for bringing that up, Kip Davis. The Highway of Tears, Highway 16 here in British Columbia, is notorious for many dozens of unsolved murders of Indigenous women.
on the West Coast, I mean, I'm getting chills. But it's like something I'm passionate and obsessed. I feel like it's my purpose on this planet was to help solve the serial killing case. But I did solve it, but none of the suspects are in jail. So basically, I feel so frustrated. There's nothing more I can do. I put all the information into the right hands. So at this point, it's awareness in media and sharing. And I know I keep saying it, so I guess I should tie up this video at this point. And I'm going to leave the link to my blog on Dwight's case and more of the details in the subscription or in the description. And so please subscribe, support my channel in any way.
She didn't mention this happened in 2010. That's been a while ago.
My volunteer work so that I could help more families, like and share, and maybe I'll do an update on this. Hopefully there'll be some developments and we could help stop this from happening and affecting more families. It's crazy. A lot of these families end up becoming my extended family, and I'm a support system for them. So I want to work really hard to give them justice. Like,
which is so toxic.
Sons, but they gain me as a family.
That is so toxic. They lose their son, but they gain. Did you hear what she just said? Let's play that again.
So I want to work really hard to give them justice. Like, they lose their sons, but they gain me as a family, you know? So like, they're part of my extended family, and I want to protect and help them as much as I can. So it's extremely frustrating to know everything I know. And I'm so confident because of
boundaries, girl. Boundaries. Jesus Christ.
all the circumstantial evidence, and then for it to keep happening, it's extremely frustrating. So I love you guys again. Thanks for your support, and I'll stop rambling. I'll end the video now. I love you guys. Take care. Thanks. Bye.
I suspend thought. I do not think about what I'm going to see. I do not think about what it might be. I do not think. I look out the windows if they're driving. I look at the trees. I stay focused on each moment.
Looking at the trees is important no matter what kind of woo you're peddling. Yeah, I've replaced your son and I have psychic powers. Isn't that creepy as fuck? Please stop contacting my family is what I would say. It's cute in a horror movie like Jeepers Creepers. Yeah, there's a psychic. Whatever. Ugh.
As best as possible. I refuse to consider the situation.
And then it just comes to you? How does it come? Visions, voices, all the above?
Since one of them was, I can remember walking past the crime, because it was a fresh crime tape, into the 2-story condo. And on the first floor, I look up the stairs. Now, I don't know why I'm looking up the stairs, but suddenly I feel killer. I just feel killer. And I go, the killer lives up there.
Okay. And people just like, oh, you're right. Okay, so this next one, we have a psychic at Ed Gein's place. Now, if you don't know who Ed Gein was, he's the basis for a few horror movie killers. Starting with, let's start with Tobe Hooper's Leatherface. But also the Alfred Hitchcock's Norman Bates from Psycho, Tobe Hooper's Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and of course Buffalo Bill from The Silence of the Lambs. Ed Gein is not really a serial killer in the classic sense, though he is often listed with the serial killers because of the extreme nature of his depravity. He was a ghoul first and foremost. A ghoul is a person who robs graves, usually, right? So he would go to the cemetery and dig up corpses, and he would bring them back home and make stuff out of their skin and bones, make furniture and lamps and most notably mask and costumes and breast vest. He had a titty vest, basically made of human skin. Now, he did commit murders. There were 2 murders attributed to Ed Gein, which does prevent him from being a serial killer in any classical sense. Although, I will bring up in a second here some other factors that come into play with that. But the first victim was a bartender that I guess he thought she was immoral or a floozy or something like that. But there's a lot of lore attached to it that may or may not be true to his particular case. But regardless, he killed her. He shot her with a shotgun. And the second person he killed was a hardware store owner, right? And he actually had her strung up like a deer in his shed when they caught him. Now, the reason I said that he may still be a serial killer is there was some suspicion around the death of Ed's brother years earlier, and that Ed may have potentially been responsible for that death. However, that's again maybe be more speckled with folklore than actual truth. Same thing as the factor that his mother was overbearing, which is where Norman Bates gets his overbearing mother character from, or that he was trying to bring back his mother through occult means with these women's bodies, that he was damaged from an overbearing mother psychologically. There are some weird things, like his mother's bedroom was kept sealed up after she died. He boarded it up. No one ever went in there again until he was, apprehended. But the rest of the house was just disgusting, macabre experiment, with bones and skin and weird books and stuff. Now, the funny thing is they some people will claim that he was a transvestite or transgender person because of the breast vest and the women's face mask and stuff like that. But they even go as far as to claim that he was, that he had Jorgensen's book on his shelf, but which is not true because Jorgensen's book didn't come out until a decade after Gein. But after Gein had already been apprehended, so that was impossible to be the case. But the folklore around it grows, and people tell schoolyard stories. This was a small town in Minnesota, so word of mouth travels a lot faster, and fabrication can be fun for youths. So they add a little bit of flair to the stories as they go along, and we end up not knowing what exactly is true. And some of this stuff is published in books, even though there's no evidence that Ed had an overbearing mother, for instance, that she was part of the problem or anything like that. I mean, it's all speculation. All right, but these people go to touch Ed Gein's knife. There's the rifle he used to. That's what he actually used to kill with. Is that rifle?
So they don't know for sure if these were or weren't, but you think they probably weren't the shotguns?
These are the shotguns. Yeah, those are family shotguns.
Right, but not the ones that he
No,
would
I
use.
don't think so.
Is that the same for the knife?
The knife is one of 3 that he's used. So, but we've had a lot of issues with the knife, more so than the guns, because his mom is mostly attached to the guns.
His mom's attached to the guns.
She was basically the head of the table. Basically, because
Is that as loud as it goes? Jesus.
He was anything in life. That was George. Henry was his brother, which eventually leaving the house because of that.
The video is just really quiet. Sorry, guys.
Really terrible. She felt like she wanted to kill people. And they had to take her outside.
I almost wonder if that's not psychological, because Ed wasn't a killer.
Yeah, no.
Ed was messed up in a lot of ways, but
He dug up bodies more so than a killer.
yeah.
He killed 2 women. What do you mean he wasn't a killer? He murdered 2 women in a small town.
he felt like he could bring his mom back to life, actually.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of times he spent back.
No.
You know, stir her back up, so to speak. But there's been reports where that he was actually.
Did you all even look into the Ed Gein case before you came here and started making crazy claims that he was a necromancer? That he was trying to bring his mom back, or that he wasn't a serial killer, or so he's a suspected serial killer, I guess is the thing. He's a murderer for sure, but he's a suspected serial killer because three victims is required to be a serial killer, and whether or not he murdered his brother is still up in the hunting accident is up for debate. But yeah, he did shoot his brother in a hunting accident when they were youths. But like, if you consider it even today, that Plainfield, Wisconsin doesn't even have 1,000 people. He killed 2 people in that town. So that's like a huge percent of the population that he was responsible for murdering. But no, he wasn't a killer. Shut the fuck up.
Flopping a little. I've gotten weird. Cynthia was on live and I got weird. Holding it stuff. She's like, I've investigated you long enough to know how you investigate. Like,
It's got a vibe.
She's like, this ain't you. But like, no, sit down.
Do you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the Velisca guy, where it's getting this little bit of apprehension, put this down to get Derek's really close to me, you know? And it's like, it's that type of mixed, like.
But that's just kind of the reports that have been coming with the news itself.
Per capita murder percentage. I love that, Ember. That's one way to put it.
Everybody's watching you, and if you get weird, you put it down and you take them outside.
Well, and it's not at all like I was like really gonna do it, but I mean, I got just the emotions that were going through was very much the, oh, this is wrong. No, I would never. But I wonder what that would feel like, you know? Just kind of like that thought went through my head. And I'm like, that's not okay.
I mean, those are intrusive thoughts, but we all have them. Someone's getting on your nerve and you want to like stick an ice pick in their neck. Sure. We're only human. Wonder how much weight I've lost. Just looking at my tummy on there. Looks like I've lost some weight.
The claim with Midwest Conspiracy Groups is when Dave LaValle was in here, they did the Delco experiment, which was the first time for this place to happen. They threw a
let me see if the closed captions will help. Because it's really, really soft. I got mine cranked up all the way. They did not do good audio here.
Never done it before. She did okay. He was getting influenced pretty bad before he even got back in here. And then, as I was watching the Instagram live that they were doing, which they eventually deleted because they didn't want the board to see, he held the knife, he held the shotgun, and he was just saying like he felt like sheer power.
That's all he said. There's no power here.
Mm-mm.
He felt power, like he squeezed him harder and harder and harder.
Feels sick. I think it was during one of those moments where he wasn't totally lucid, and I think if he had come to and doing anything like he was doing, he would have been.
That's a good idea to buy like an old jail and set up like exhibits about different serial killers in each cell. That's an interesting idea for a museum.
Knife on the floor, didn't realize he did it. He dropped a shotgun on the floor, didn't realize he did it. But Spencer was on the outside of the cell, and he was like, holding like, where is so-and-so? Where is so-and-so? Like, I thought he was going to get up and actually walk out to find him.
Chris, what are you doing?
But, and that's just one of those things where now, after all that all happened, it got really intense watching it on Instagram. Well, as of right now, Tom won't let those guys come back yet, just because of how everything went. And after all that, this whole place was like weird for 3 days. And they actually had a 10-year-old come in here and they had to actually take her outside because she thought she was going to get sick, just being here. So.
Chris, what are you doing?
I get that good sick.
What else are you feeling?
It's kind of a flash of it, like you get a Velisca.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious if it was the same flash I got.
It was body hanging.
Oh, no, not the same one then.
It was. It was brief.
So, I see someone asked about women serial killers. So, yeah, and Eileen Wuornos is the only one that a lot of people can think of because she's famous for doing more of a man style of serial killing, but there have been women serial killers, prolific ones that were poisoners, especially early on, and they would help women dispose of abusive husbands and things like that. Now, the methodology of women serial killers is so much different, and the psychology and the motivations behind it is so much it's so different than what the psychology and motivation behind most men serial killers and the serial killings of Eileen Wuornos were. But there's people like I got a list here. There's Mary Ann Cotton, a poisoner. There is Gesh Gottfried, a German serial killer poisoner. Della Sorensen, a Nebraska woman who poisoned at least 7 people. Martha Wise, an American woman who poisoned 17 family members. Giulia Tofana, an Italian woman who sold powerful arsenic-based poison called Aqua Tofana to women who wanted to kill their abusive husbands. Over 600 deaths are attributed to her poison. There is Tamara Ivaniltina, a Soviet serial killer who used poison thallium, resulting in 13 deaths over 11 years. Caroline Grills, an Australian serial killer who used thallium to poison her victims, predominantly well-off families. And there's also other kinds of killers. There's like Bluebeards and Black Widows and stuff like that too, which are offshoot of serial killers. The Bluebeard and the Black Widow are the same thing. It's just where they marry someone that's wealthy, that they kill them, inherit their wealth, and then do it again and again. Amelia Dyer. There's Azerbaijan battery, but I don't know how valid those claims are. They're kind of folklorish. Anyway.
He did gut his people. Yeah. But he was never a hunter, though. That's
No,
the
but
thing. He was never a hunter.
He literally shot his brother in a hunting accident. If that happened to me, I'd quit hunting too.
Parents clean animals.
Mm-hmm.
Out in the shed.
Yep.
I didn't know what to expect to feel, but I didn't expect to feel sorry for him, and that's what I feel is sorry for him. Like he was very confused.
What a stretch! Oh, hey, how's it going, friends? Oh, this? Don't even worry about it. I'm just peeling an apple.
Oh, yeah, we're not going to watch this one. But we'll come back to this topic some other time because we got to wrap up this Week in Weird because we're at the 3-hour mark and I haven't even got into the Paleo Peak with Dawn's segment. So I'm going to wrap up our first delve into supernatural serial killers right here and now, but we will be revisiting this topic in the future. There's a lot of other facets to it that we didn't even get to talk about. We got serial killers who did that's still on the list here. We got serial killers who performed occult rituals or believed they had supernatural or divine abilities or divine guidance or supernatural guidance, demonic guidance in their killings. We have people with spirit boxes and spirit boards trying to communicate with serial killers. So we have a lot of stuff going on. And of course, we have evangelicals claiming that all serial killers are possessed by demons. So there's a lot to there's a lot more to unpack here in this facet of the supernatural research when it comes to serial killers. I thought we'd get through more than just the psychic detective angle of this, but I guess not. And that's fine. That's fine. Dividing this into segments gives me more content to cover. It's been a great show, though. But I do need to wrap up this Week in Weird right here now. So please remember to be kind. Take care, and we will see you next time. All right, and live from the Hive audience. Don't leave, because I want people to stick around for this, because I really think Dawn's videos deserve more. Thank you. And need to deserve more attention. So I'm gonna take us a quick little intermission here. I got a little Pride video thing I'm gonna show, and then we will be back with the bestiary. Or not bestiary. We're not doing the bestiary, but we will be back with Paleo Peak.